Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of our Catch Up with Keeper webinar series, and thank you all so much for joining us. All right, let me make sure I've got the chat configured. Okay. Tyler, good to see you. Important to see you here, seeing as you will be our app showcase person. I don't know, person coming on our app showcase. Yeah, sorry to spring this news on you a little last minute. Hope that's okay. Cool. Well, we're going to give everyone another minute or two to show up as per usual before we dive on in. All right, 2 minutes past top of the hour. That means it's time to get started. So welcome everyone to the August Catch Up with Keeper webinar. In case this is your first ever Catch Up with Keeper webinar, here's the way these work. We start with an overview of all the new features we've shipped over the last month. And I assure you folks, we have been very busy. I have a lot of features that I'm excited to share with you. After we do that, we will have an app showcase. And this month's app showcase is Tyler Otto. He's going to be going over some advanced metrics functionality to coincide with our Metrics 2.0 feature launch that I will also be covering. And then we will also open things up for some Q&A. And speaking of Q&A, if you have a question, please drop it into the Q&A section rather than the chat. We will try to monitor the chat, but Q&A, much more reliable way to get your questions answered. All right, and with the requisite disclaimers out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get things started. Okay. So first things first, the client list. We have 3 major new upgrades on the client list I'm excited to share with you. First, for some of you larger folks, larger practices, I know you've been waiting a long time for this. So excited to share the new Create Closes button. If you click this button, that will let you bulk start all of the latest closes, or if you want, you can also bulk start all of the even next month closes as well. And so now, instead of needing to wait for the first to go click all the plus signs and get everything started, you can actually do that right here with a single with just a couple of clicks. Okay. Another thing you can do to further customize the client list, this actually permeates out broader than just the client list, but it's the place I chose to talk about it here on this webinar, and that is preparer reviewer roles. So for those of you who don't know, you can have preparer and reviewer and even a third role called manager roles on your closes. This is a way to assign someone to basically like a part of a close that is relevant. We chose preparer, reviewer, manager. You may not have preparer, reviewer, and manager as the 3 names that you call people who do work for your clients. And now you can actually change those. So if you turn on override assignee labels, you can take preparer, reviewer, manager and change them to anything you like. So if instead of preparer, you want this to say bookkeeper, instead of reviewer, you want this to say client manager, and instead of manager, you want this to say partner, you can do that and it will show up wherever you previously would see preparer, reviewer, manager. So on the client list, on the templates, and so on. All right. And then the last client list update I'm excited to talk about is this new column called Latest Published Financials. So in case you haven't seen this, it is a way to see the latest financials you've published through Keeper right here on the client list. So for example, we've got DemoCo, and we can see we've published financials through June of 2022. And if we click this, we can actually see all of the previous financials we published that are sitting in our client's portal where they can go view them. We can even click into these and see the financials as well. So this is one more way that Keeper is trying to centralize all of the information so that you as a manager can see all of the work that your team is doing, all of the work, where clients are, where they need to be. So for example, you can sort this descending and see, okay, like who are these other clients that we have not published financials for? And you can use this to combine with other properties and things like that. So if you only publish financials for a subset of your clients, you can create a custom save view for that as well. Okay, and on that note, if you want to add this to your client list, you just go here to this waffle grid looking icon, scroll to the bottom, and there is a new section called Financials where you can check latest published financial report. Okay, so before we dive into a couple of the other upgrades to the core of inside of using Keeper, I want to talk about one of the upgrades of what's not in Keeper, and in particular, our Zapier. So we made a couple of new Zaps, or a couple of new Zap triggers, and the goal of Zapier more broadly, and more specifically within Keeper, is to give you the ability to connect the tools that you use so that you can do things in one place and it'll update everywhere. So for some of you, Keeper is not your only workflow solution. It is maybe not even your primary workflow solution. And with the introduction of these new Zapier triggers, we're taking a couple of big steps forward in allowing you to use Keeper for just the month-end close or for just what you want to do with it, while also allowing all of the information that you're generating in the process of doing the work in Keeper to push into whatever other system that you use. So in this case, I chose SmartSuite as the alternate solution. SmartSuite's like a Airtable-ish kind of thing. I actually just started a free trial with it this morning, so I can't speak to whether it's good or bad, but I just knew they had a Zapier integration. And so in this CRM, essentially, that we have in SmartSuite, we have two important fields. First is Keeper ID. So this is the client ID that's associated with that client in Keeper. And in case you're wondering how to get this, it's actually available right on your URL. So where it says close CID 4033, that's the client ID for DemoCo. Anyways, so what we've done is we've mapped those in. That way, whenever we make an update inside Keeper, that can push that change into some other system, into SmartSuite in this case. And then we also have this new column called close status. And this is just a text field that we replace whenever we update the status of a close. So if you're a manager and you're using SmartSuite, but you're not inside Keeper, you can still see the status of the latest close. And so if we actually go in and make a change here, so let's say we change DemoCo from not started to, let's say, ready for manager review, and we'll refresh this page here. Sometimes it takes a second because I think this app only runs once every minute or so. But yeah, you can see here, this now updates. So you can basically push out all of those status changes to wherever they need to go. All right, so back to Keeper and on to time tracking. One minor quality of life upgrade that I think improves the quality of life enough that I wanted to that I think it merits a little bit of elaboration here is we added a total to your hours that filters as you filter the client list. So for example, if you wanted to see how many hours some particular user has worked, you can filter that. So if we filter for someone else, say we filter for Danielle, we can see these totals will update dynamically. All right. So back to the client list, if only to route us to the close page. The next upgrade I want to talk about is on the close page. 1801 Brands is one of our Xero clients. And one of the things that I'm super excited about with this is we hugely upgraded the speed that it takes to load and access a new Xero client. So you saw it takes sort of like 3 or 4 seconds there. Previously, it could take 10 to 12 seconds. So from best case to worst case, we've seen upgrades where Xero files now load up to 6 times faster. All right. So that was the pit stop into Xero. And now I'm going to switch to my main demoing file and talk about some of the other changes. The most notable and most visible of which is a general UX improvement here on the top bar of the close page. So a couple of things that we've done. First is we have replaced the long-hated back button with a home button. So previously, this back button, you would like click if you were on reporting and you had previously pit stopped in metrics, you would like click back 3 or 4 times to get back to the client list. Now, wherever you are, you click this home button, it will take you back to the client list. We've also sort of generally polished things up and moved things around a little bit in what we hope is a better, more logical structure. And a lot more new good changes coming to make the close page feel less overwhelming in the next month and change. All right. One other major upgrade that you probably won't see unless you've tried it is the drag and drop file system. So previously, if you wanted to upload a file to, let's say, this task here, you needed to click this files icon, click add attachment, find your attachment here, upload it, and then click submit, and then click close, and then click out. That's like a hugely annoying process, especially if you're using Keeper as your primary backup system for your statements. And now it's so much easier. All you need to do is grab that file and then just drag and drop it onto the file or onto the task that you want to attach it to, and it'll automatically attach that task to that file. So it's a whole heck of a lot easier. You just grab your file, put it wherever you want, and it'll drag and drop it right there. Okay. Now on to a couple of the sort of nittier and grittier updates inside of the actual logic and plumbing of the review. Next one I want to talk about is the prepared 1099s report. And here we added a new feature, which is the ability to basically extend the exclusion rules into bills. So one thing that some of y'all may actually not even know is that Keeper's prepared 1099s report calculates based on the bill payment rather than the bill. The reason we do that is because essentially that's more directly tied to when the cash is actually paid, and 1099s need to be filed on a cash basis. But one of the sort of downside consequences of that is there's no way to like reach back into the bill and see what spend is reportable or not reportable on the bill. Or at least that was the case until this last week, where we added the ability to dynamically apply your exclusion list rules into a bill that's associated to a bill payment. So it's a lot of talking. Showing is definitely going to be an easier way to make this clear. So the first thing I want to mention is in our account exclude list, we have job supplies and lumber coded as non-reportable. And now if we go and look at this bill payment, we can see we're only reporting $6153.85 of the $16,000 total on this bill payment. And if we actually click into the bill payment, we can see why that calculation is working the way it's working, which is the associated bill has $10,000 in spend on contractors, $9,000 on job supplies, and $7,000 on lumber. So basically, the math here is we're taking the reportable spend over the total spend and applying that back to the bill payment. All right. And one more transaction logic update is you can now edit customers, class, and location for multi-line journal entries. So see if I can find a good example here. Previously you had to have customers on to be able to add a customer to a journal entry. Now that is no longer the case. So you can always just like add a customer. So you can assign a journal entry to a payee. Okay, that's it for the close page upgrades. And now, last but certainly not least, I'm excited to talk about our metrics 2.0 upgrade. So huge overhaul to everything in metrics, from the general UI to the core functionality to what you can do with it. Super excited to talk about this. And so I think breaking this down into a few steps, you have what kind of new data can you get from QuickBooks? You have how can you sort of better organize the variables and formulas, and then how can you create new visuals? So I think the most unique thing that we've done to improve what kind of data you can get from QuickBooks is we allow you to now, and this applies for Xero as well. So when I say things like class and location, just substitute it for you Xero folks, substitute it for tracking categories, same basic concept. So what you can do now in metrics is you can say, I want to get the profit and loss, and I want to filter it by a certain class, or I want to filter it by multiple classes. What you can do here is dependent on your file settings. So if you have location and customers on, you'll get those as options here as well. But so here, for example, we've got that P&L, and we want to say, like, let's get our P&L filtered by admin, for example. And then what that will let us do, we actually have already created that here. What that will do is that will return the P&L coded for admin. And that lets you do a lot of things that you haven't previously been able to do in Keeper, like you can get total admin, total engineering, and total sales spend by getting the P&L filtered by each of those respective classes, and then taking that and just like creating a formula that just references the total expenses. And this is great for creating visuals. You can actually even create a functional P&L like this, for example. So for example, you can have for those of you who are fond of reading 10Ks, you'll know that the P&L is standardized for gross profit and loss, COGS, gross profit, and then R&D or S&M, R&D, G&A. And if you have those coded as classes so that you don't have to have like 5 different payroll accounts, you previously haven't been able to generate P&Ls that work for that. Now you can in Keeper. I won't belabor the point here. I suspect I'm like dragging on and getting confusing, so I'm gonna move on. But the class location customers are now referenceable inside formulas, buildable inside spreadsheets in Keeper. Okay. The next other just minor thing, but important quality of life is for those of you who've built out a lot of KPIs and metrics, one of the things you may have noticed is things just feel kind of cramped. And one of the problems with that is like every variable kind of stacks on top of every variable. Whereas if you were building these in a spreadsheet, you would be able to like paste things around and move files or move variables up and down. So we added a couple of different options to help you just like lay things out better. So one of those is a divider. And so a divider here, you can insert a row by inserting a divider like that. And that will just add basically these dividers that don't do anything other than help space out your variables. The other thing we've done here is we also let you now build out styles for how you want these formulas to look. Or how you want these variables to look. So you can choose how much you want them indented. You can bold them if you want. So you can really help let the formatting drive the understanding of what's on this spreadsheet. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have the major upgrade to what kinds of visuals you can build. So there's previously there were only just like trailing 12 months line graphs. Now there are, I think, 8 different types of visualization options. I think the most exciting of those are what we call a KPI card, which looks like this. One of the interesting things about this is this up or down arrow. You can actually choose whether up is good or bad. So for example, sales up is good, but like, but burn or like total expenses up is bad. And so you can kind of build those out the way you want. The other couple of visualization options, pie charts. This is a donut chart, just a pie chart with a little like the total amount in the middle. So it just makes it a little easier to see like what the total is that you're worried about. And then also these are called area charts. And so basically it's a line chart, but a little bit prettier because it's got this kind of like shading under the line. All right. And then last question that some of y'all may be wondering is what can you do with these? And so these right now all still go into your reporting in the metrics section. So basically, you're still just building these out for the sake of embedding them into a management report. But I think the logical question that serves to be asked that I will answer unambiguously is, will these eventually be available in the portal? And the answer is yes, we're working on that. We wanted to get these into your hands soon. But goal is to bring these into the portal so that if your clients just want to get access to a dashboard of their financials, they'll be able to do that, hopefully in fairly short order. All right. Well, that is the update for the month. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here now, see if we've got any questions in the Q&A, and then I will turn things over to Tyler. Someone asked about if we're able to get the 1099 exclusion split on other expenses. The answer is yes. Yeah, so that works. It's just it's just the bill payments logic that was previously not that I guess needed some further improvement. All right.
There's 2 questions in the chat if you want to check that out too.
Oh, can you add a profit and loss detail? Not yet. We are working on that as a separate improvement. So that is in progress, but need to clean some other stuff up first. And then Andrea asked, how does this affect the Xero P&L and metrics? It should work more or less the same as like everything that I show in Keeper should or for QuickBooks should look exactly the same in Xero. Jackson asks, is there a way to print the P&L review reports with the expanded payee level detail? Not currently. That is something that we're working. All right. Well, it looks like that's everything in the Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to stop my share here, find Tyler, and go ahead and bring him on up.
Ooh, I love it when it says I've been promoted. That's fun.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know Tyler, you should. And I will leave him otherwise unintroduced. Tyler, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Yes, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Tyler Otto. Ben likes to live on the wild side and decides to let me use my microphone on his platform every so often. So this is the 3rd time he's played Russian roulette by giving me this chance. And let's talk about metrics today, because this is where I have fun. So as many of you in the Keeper Facebook group know, I freaked out the moment they announced that Kenny went to Argentina or South America, I don't remember where, and knocked out a whole bunch of work on metrics. Way to go, Kenny. And hopefully you can see my Keeper screen. Does everyone see it? Perfect. Shauna, thank you for the nod, because I don't see anyone else. So we are going to dive in today, one of my favorite companies, Kenny's Beauty Salon and Plumbing Service Center, which now we have our fantastic metrics. For those of you that haven't gone back and watched prior catch up with Keepers, we did something late last year, really going in depth, and not a lot has changed as to how to build the metrics within Keeper. So I highly recommend you go back and watch that. I'm going to do one example right now of just building a basic margin. But if you didn't see what I just did there, we went into Kenny's Beauty Salon and Plumbing Service Center, went to metrics, and now we have our navigation along the bottom. I'm going to come in here real quick and delete one of the metrics we've made in the past. And metrics are a great way to give your clients the ability to hone in on a key variable that's going to let them drive profitability in their business, right? You can just produce a giant P&L and they're like, what do I do with that? Versus you start looking at things like labor margin, profit margin, cost of sales margin, because as revenue increases, labor should increase. And so a budget doesn't always do us justice, because we want, as revenue increases, labor increases. As revenue decreases, labor should decrease. A flat amount doesn't help us. And that's where margins are crucial. So one of the things I love looking at with every client is labor margin. Sorry for those of you, this is a repeat, but I want to make sure the noobs know how to do this as well. We're going to come up here and go to insert row, and we're going to add a formula. And for those of you that haven't done labor margin before, we are going to find our labor. It's going to show up in exactly how it appears in QuickBooks. So you're going to see it's from the profit and loss, what payroll parent account, and then it's in a sub account of hourly wages, and then it's in another sub account of manicurist labor. But we were able to find that labor. And then to calculate a profit margin, we need the direct revenue tied to that. Again, this is Kenny's Beauty Salon, so they're doing manicures. So we have manicure labor. We also need manicure revenue. And I happen to track that separately on my financials. Here we go. Now, again, this is not going to work unless you have your P&L broken out correctly for your client. If everything's lumped together, it's just one revenue line, one labor line, you're not going to be able to analyze a line of business, a service. So you want to make sure first your P&L is set up right, your chart of accounts. But we can do this because we have our labor separate and our manicure revenue separate. So I'm going to label this manicurist labor margin, and we can hit apply. And the key thing to remember in Keeper is you want to hit save right up here, because otherwise it doesn't stick and you're going to go to hunt for this later. So real quick, now we can come over into our beautiful visuals section, and we can add that graph into here. So we're going to do manicure labor margin, and we're going to go make this a percentage, and we're going to make it an area chart because I love the pretty shading. So we're going to do that. And from our KPIs section, we're going to do the manicurist labor margin. Ooh, and I'm going to make it, I like line. Let's do that. So as we can see, it makes a nice pretty graph. Most of you are like, hey, Tyler, we've seen this before. This is nothing new. And you're right. This is where we're going to get into the cool stuff we can do. I'm going to go back over to my variables page, and I'm going to add something new. Now, Ben knows I've been bugging him for years that I want to be able to incorporate a budget, which I believe is coming. But until that time, we are just going to be able to manually add a number. We know for this business that Kenny's always trying to make, let's say, 32 cents on every dollar for a manicure. So he wants to pay out 68 cents in labor. So we know that our margin goal for manicurist is 0.68. That's our goal. I'm going to copy and paste this over, and every month before I deliver financials, I'm just going to do a quick copy and paste so this 0.68 populates into the next month. Now I'm going to hit save, come back over to my visuals, and we can add this in. We're going to have a goal, and I like making it a black. Hey, Ben, by the way, what's the difference between slate, gray, zinc, neutral, and stone?
I think if you squint, there's no difference. I have no idea why we have all of these colors in. Also, by the way, really quick minor update. This like slid into one of the like very small notes in a very long changelog sometime in the last few weeks. You can now have constants as a variable. So you can just have a variable formula and just type 0.68 instead of needing to copy and paste it every
Look at me showing up unprepared. Way to go. All right, so what Ben said, you don't apparently have to copy it over every month. Regardless, I'm going to throw it in here. And now we've got a nice pretty line going across where our client can easily see over time what months they're going over their goal and what months they're coming under. Now it's a really quick way for our clients to go into that metric page and just at a high level see, have we been successful in our goal? Are we over or under? Do we need to address how we're staffing our manicurist appointments? Do we need to call people off more because we have too many people sitting around ready to do those appointments? Or maybe we increased wages, but we didn't increase the price of those manicures. And so therefore it's costing us, we're not making the margin we want. Setting up goals now is a great way to do it. And apparently, yes, you can set up a constant. Ben, did I miss how to do that? Where is that?
You can't convert a number into a formula, but if you just click add formula, and then just type 0.68, that should work now.
Oh, really? Look at that. Margin goal. Nope, that's already taken. So we'll do V2. Look at that, everyone. We're learning something live.
There you go.
How awesome is that? Okay. So that is the first thing, is being able to put in those visuals. Oh, nope. I want to save it. Now I'm going over. Sorry, folks. Driving too fast over here. Metrics. So that's our first one we're going to look at, is putting in those sort of guidelines. And I recommend for doing this for profit margin, cost of sales margin, labor margin, any other sort of goal that's going to fluctuate every month. Let's build those in. Next up, I have loved being able to help my clients with their cash flow management. As many of you probably experience as well, you can give them guidelines, but cash is king, and that's where a lot of them struggle. And so working capital is the greatest way to go about that, in my opinion. So what I love to do for a majority of my clients is I will put in a KPI just on what their working capital is, which for those of you that don't know, that's their current assets minus their current liabilities, what they have minus what they owe. And sometimes I make that even harder on my clients because I don't let them count their receivables, what money is about to come in, because they may be really bad at collecting. And I just want to make sure with the cash in the bank, they can cover the debts that are coming due this month. So I love to come in and I'm going to create my metrics in here because then I can add or exclude things. So first one I'm going to do is let's just do our bank accounts. And we can call this, well, actually, we don't even have to build it here, but I'm going to just cash. And I'm using it for, oh, can't do that. That's right. Cash working capital. So now I know what this metric is for. And we're going to have all our bank accounts, perfect, showing up by balance. And then let's say we want a custom calculation for our liabilities. So for this client, I am just going to do credit cards plus accounts payable. And we're say liabilities. I want to do that working capital. Come over here, hit save. And we can make a nice, pretty visualization now. If we come in, capital, and we are going to, I like currency, I like whole numbers, and I am going to make a bar chart. And this is going to allow us, see, I put working in there so I could find it later. Working, I like a pretty green color for what's positive, and then working, there's our liabilities. I like an ugly red color. That's bad. And now when we create this graph, our client has a very clear side-by-side of what's higher, right? Do they have more in cash or more in liabilities? You could add into this formula accounts receivable if you want, and that would probably help increase the asset side. But I like to try and keep my clients in a poor man's mentality, right? People operate more efficiently when they think they have less cash. Obviously, Kenny's beauty salon is doing wonderful because his cash far exceeds this. So he's in a great spot. One other thing I've done for a client that just numbers mean nothing to him, but visuals mean everything, is we can do working capital V2. We're going to do numbers, whole, and we're going to do a donut chart. And this is where we get to have fun as well, because we can do all our cash. Yep. Or let's just do bank. Yeah, let's do bank accounts. Because see, we don't need to go create that variable if it's just referencing bank accounts. I'll show you why, because we can just call it cash right here. And we go make that green. It's good. And then we're going to do our receivables. And we're going to make that also a nice, pretty good color. How about teal? And then we're going to throw in our bad stuff. We're going to do our payables. We're going to make that a nice, ugly red. And then we're also going to do our credit card payments. Our credit cards that are coming due. And we're going to make that orange. That's bad. Now, I know that this doesn't necessarily tie out. Ben, you're probably going to get mad at me right now because this number is actually the aggregate of all of these. It doesn't do much to help us with this number. In fact, I usually put a disclaimer right here that says, ignore the number. But my client who's in construction is rather just, he suffers and he wants to be able to quickly see, is there more greenish blue in this circle? Do I cover all my debts and liabilities? Or am I in trouble? Is there a lot more red and orange? Quick visuals like this for some of your clients that just hate looking at spreadsheets can go a long way because you can tell them up here in this description, ignore the number in the middle. And we want greens to outweigh reds. And you can say it however you want. We said it a lot more eloquently, but I don't remember what I said. Plus, I'm hopped up on caffeine right now. But this gives our client a quick visual as to if they're doing well. So I absolutely love just like customizing it to fit your client. Then maybe one day we can add a subtract function. That would be cool.
You could also, I actually undefined. I have no idea what would happen if you put negative values in here, but you could also do a pie chart if you want them to just ignore the values, because pie charts don't
Oh,
include
that's right.
the donut cutout.
Let's get rid of the donut. Let's go straight to pie. I'm a more donut guy anyways over pie. Like you give me a choice.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
So just, it's not in my nature. But there you go. You can help them quickly identify if they're sitting in the positive or the negative. So that is one of the other things I want to talk about. Oh, last one I wanted to cover. Some cool things you can do. Any of your clients that have taken out big loans to fund their business. For me, I've got a lot of hotels. Hotels, they take out $2 to $3 million loans to start that business. And they have certain guidelines that they have to adhere to satisfy the requirements of those loans. One of those things is what's called debt service ratio. A lot of you might encounter this as your clients start taking on big amounts of debt. And most banks want to see something around 2. Now, debt service ratio is how much money you're bringing in each month versus what your monthly payment is on that debt. And that's principal and interest. So they want to make sure that you've got at least twice as much coming in as the debt payment going out. And so for 2 of my clients, they love to see their debt service ratio. Let's build a formula and let's call it our let's spell it right, debt service ratio. And we are going to, I lied. We got to do one thing first before we get into it. Debt service, mortgage payments, those are a balance sheet transaction, right? The principal offsets the balance sheet. We can't really go in and change that because Keeper is going to pull the balance sheet as aggregate information. Now, we couldn't go pull it from the statement of cash flows, but I'm going to show you one other trick you can do in here, which is we're going to add a constant number. And we're going to use Ben's new trick. Thank you, Ben. Which I know that this mortgage payment is $10,500 a month. Yes, the interest and principal changes every month, but I know that is the mortgage payment. So I am just going to come put it as a static constant and say, here's our mortgage payment. And now I can add a formula that is our net income divided by our mortgage payment. And then we will call this our debt service ratio, right? That's what I want. That's what I want. Mortgage payment. Good. Now we can see this nice, pretty number across here. And whether we want to go back and do a line chart or, no.
It wants you to delete that. Yeah, there you go.
I figured. All right. So we're going to come back over here. And now we're going to add that quick view like Ben had in his example of a KPI card that sits right at the top. That's good. I don't think the color matters on the card, but Ben, tell me if I'm wrong.
It does not, no.
Perfect. And so now we can have a nice, pretty card right at the top of our financials that calls out the debt service ratio. And if you want to remind them, our goal is to have a DSR of 2. You can put it right there in the notes. And now the client can see if there's cause for concern or not, because they can see their debt service ratio for the month. You may not have a client that this is applicable for, but identify those key things they want to see, because this page will become much more what they focus on. If you can speak to it, do a month-end review call on it, or review video, give them the key levers that they need to pull and build them out in here. It'll make life so much easier. And with that, I think those are all the examples I had. Ben, anything else you wanted me to cover? I apologize I didn't get into classes because I didn't build that out in the demo file.
No, I think this was great. And for those of you who have questions on classes, you can always ask them now or later individually in the chat or to your CSM. So always here and happy to help on metrics. But Tyler, thank you so much. This was great. I want to give everyone a second here. Anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions they have for Tyler? Nope. Tyler explained everything so well that no one has any questions.
Oh, yeah. Someone wanted the constant variable. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Tyler, where can people find you if they want to learn more stuff like this, or they want to learn stuff not at all related to this?
Okay. I mean, if you got a minute, we'll hit it. So find me on LinkedIn. That's where I've lived. Follow us on Instagram if you like dad jokes. We aren't really helpful in the accounting space, but we're pretty solid on our dad joke game at Specialty Bookkeepers. So at Specialty BK, Tyler Otto on LinkedIn. Also, a couple months ago, we released our podcast, Unaccountable. Jeremy Van Grohl of Nonprofit Bookkeeping and I kicked that off. Imagine a mix of accounting game show with shenanigans, tomfoolery, a little education, and a lot of bromance. Like that's that sweet spot we're hitting. I know, Ben, you've checked out a couple episodes. Hopefully you're still listening, but
I am, and I'm dropping the link in the chat so that people can find it.
Yeah, checks out Unaccountable. We think it's fun. We're having fun with it and getting good feedback. And the other thing is actually we just dropped an Excel training course. If you're looking to just beef up your skills, tylerauto.com/excellent. Excellent, one word. But that's also there. Imagine it is like, episode 4 of the Star Wars series came out first. This is like intermediate skills we're hitting first before we get into the beginner stuff. So if you're looking to up your game, we're doing a discount right now for anyone in the Keeper community. Promo code Keeper gets you 50% off. So if you want to check that out, tylerauto.com/excellent. And I think that's it.
Awesome.
Send me a carrier pigeon if you want. That's another way to get me.
So Sabrina didn't ask via carrier pigeon, but she did ask, do you do consulting for metrics as a training?
Not yet, Sabrina, but you and I can chat. I mean, happy to get into it. You're not the first, and I don't know. Message me, Sabrina.
We'll consider it a strong maybe.
Strong maybe. I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, drop my website in the chat. Okay, let's do. And Ben, you dropped the podcast. So that's. Oh, Ben, I only sent that to you, not the group.
Perfect.
Oh, Ben, you'll have to drop it. It doesn't look like I can post it.
Okay. All right. There is Tyler's website. And we'll post that in the show notes as well. I don't know if this is a show note. We'll post that in the webinar notes when we post this on that recording on YouTube.
Awesome. Ben, can we get you on the podcast? Can we put you pressure you live?
Yeah, for sure. I got this podcaster quality mic I've got to like amortize the usage of. So yeah, I'll happy to join.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir.
All right. Well, that's going to go ahead and actually it looks like we have one more Q&A. Okay, someone asked for the constant variable, which I think we have now shown. Cool. So that's going to wrap it.
Sorry, one last question in the chat. Can you go over how to customize the report, i.e. accountant disclaimer for prepared financials?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. I'll pull up Keeper and I will quickly show that. Okay, so if you want to add disclaimer language to your management reports, you only have to do this in one place, one time. You go to your practice settings, and then there is an option here called legal disclaimers. So go ahead and click that. You can set disclaimer language that shows up on your cover page. We recommend like the longer form legal disclaimer here. And then you can also have footer page legal disclaimers as well. This can be something like no assurance provided. And you can also choose, if you want, to show the basis that you're delivering the reports on. All right. Shane, anything else that I missed? Okay.
Nope.
Cool. Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for the August edition of our Catch Up with Keeper webinar series. So thank you all so much for taking the time. In case for some reason you want to watch this again, it will be available live on YouTube later today. And we also will post the link. We'll also post links to all of the specific features that we updated in the description for that video. And then it also is available in our help center. Okay. Well, everyone have a wonderful rest of your month and good luck as we start out the August closes in a couple of days.
Thanks, team.